Hey everybody, it's me, Angela Walters. Welcome to this week's live chat. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a few weeks since I've been here, and I was like, how do I even start? What's even going on? I feel a little discombobulated, but I'm super excited to be here today. Sorry I missed you all the last 3 weeks. 2 weeks prior, I was in Alaska for spring break, and then last week I was doing a boot camp and teaching here. So love getting to pop in whenever I can. Always miss you guys when I can't. But I'm here today and super excited to answer your questions live if you're watching. Jessica is behind the monitor as always, monitoring the chat, and she'll give me those questions at the end. And I also have a giveaway for you all today. Now, normally when I do a giveaway, I draw a winner during the live chat. But this time I'm switching it up. This giveaway is going to be good for a week. So we will look at the comments and randomly pick a winner next Thursday. So all you have to do to enter is leave a comment on this video saying hey or whatever. I mean, the more compliments you use, probably the better chance of winning. No, I'm just kidding. But what can you win? Well, I'm so glad you asked. I'm giving away a fat quarter bundle from my brand new fabric collection, Liberty Blooms. So I'm going to be talking about this today, but we just got this in like today, hot off the presses. Cut and fat quarter bundles. Anyway, so I'm excited to go over a little bit of stuff. I'm going to talk about the upcoming video series, which is starting next week, and then show a little bit of upcoming events here and talk about the new fabric collection. Just a little kind of mishmash of all the stuff. But if you have any questions, like I said, go ahead and leave those and we'll get them answered. So anyway, without further ado, let's get to the good stuff. I've announced this in previous live chats and videos, but next week is starting our Hello Spring video series. So this is a 4-part video series where we are quilting through some panels and making some quilted projects. If you have hung out on my YouTube channel at all, you know I kind of do the Midnight Quilter, which is more like piecing stuff. And then I have the Free Motion Challenge Quilting Along, which is like machine quilting. But these little mini video series take them both, where we're quilting panels and then creating some quilted projects. I did something similar around Christmas time, and then now we're doing one to celebrate spring, that wonderful time of the year where you never really know what season it is, especially if you live in the Midwest. It's been crazy, but that is kicking off next Tuesday. And so we're going to be working together through 4 weeks of videos, starting April 21st and on through May. So it's going to kind of bring us into the, that beautiful time of year. The panels that we're going to be quilting in the video series, I designed just for it, just for the series. It's kind of springy, but not like in your face spring. And if you want to learn more about the videos or the panels, you can definitely still get those, even though we're starting on Tuesday. So those are available still. We still have a few left. You can check that out by clicking the link in the description box below. It's going to be a great time where we quilt together, and I'm going to do some spring-inspired designs. Think flowers and leaves and, just fun, whimsical things. So I'm very, very excited for that. It says available for pre-order, but I think we're pretty close to shipping on demand. Like we've been cutting like crazy. I say we, I haven't. My staff have been cutting like crazy. So I need to make a monument to all the rotary blades that have given their life for our business. But like I said, to learn more about that, you can check out quiltingismytherapy.com. Click the link in the description box below. Super excited to start that. And I'll just kind of give you a little bit of a sneak peek. This is one of the mini panels, all quilted up and ready to turn into projects. So a lot of fun, depending whether you want to do the bigger one or the little one. Just kind of depends on what you're feeling. All right, besides that, it is a busy time of year here at Quilting Is My Therapy. I feel like I always say that because it's always kind of busy. We have our block of the month finishing kits will be launching this weekend. We have a new Free Motion Challenge Quilting Along that we'll tell you about, not for about another month or so. And then also we have some events coming up here at the quilt shop. So if you live in the area, I know not everybody lives in Kansas City area. If you're wondering, that's where I'm at. Actually, Liberty, Missouri, which is kind of, pretty symbolic for the America's 250th anniversary. But if you're ever in the Kansas City area, I hope you'll stop in and see our brick and mortar quilt shop. I have a great staff that makes it look so pretty. If you ever go into it and you think anything looks cool, just know I had nothing to do with it. So, but we have some upcoming events, and I know not everybody is in the area or can be in the area, but we do have a little way for you to participate, and I'll show you that here in a second. I will say, as a selling point, we're only 45 minutes from Missouri Star Quilting Company, so Missouri Star Quilt Company. I almost put that on the awning for the shop, Missouri Star Quilt Company, but I thought that was a little too cheesy. But anyway, if you come see Jenny, you should pop by and see me. So starting in June, we have the Quilt Walk and long arm classes. So here at our event space, I have a most beautiful room full of long arms, 6 shiny, big, beautiful long arms where I get to do hands-on long arm classes. Now, I love teaching machine quilting, and I love teaching on a sewing machine, but being able to teach on a long arm is kind of a unique experience. So I'm having some hands-on classes kind of around the Quilt Walk time. So again, I know not everybody can be in the area, but just want to let you know in case, you could make it. To find out more about all this is all in the description box below. You can click the link below. So these hands-on long arm classes, I'm going to have 4 of them about different class topics, and the fee includes everything needed. You don't have to bring anything. Lunch is included, fabric, handouts, all the things. So June 2nd, we're going to do borders and backgrounds. This is going to be kind of a spin off negative space quilting, but also taking those designs and learning how to use them in borders, and also how to work your way through borders on a quilt, kind of how I approach it. You don't have to have any long arm experience to take the class. In fact, if you are new and have never touched a long arm, that's usually my favorite student because they don't have any bad habits. I don't have any bad habits to break from them, and I can mold them as I want them to be. But anyway, so then June 3rd, we're doing a thread play class. I used to call this thread painting, but I think that sounds too like artsy. So I'm going to go with thread play. It's like finger painting, right? It's like playing with threads. And so we're going to see how to, work with different kinds of threads, dealing with tension and issues, and then creating a quilted wall hanging using all those different things. So I love that class. I know some people are nervous about that, but it really is just like scribbling with thread. It's probably the easiest long arm class to take because we're just making texture. Then we're going to do quilting with rulers. When I'm picking out classes for like a chunk of events like this, I try to have a little bit something different. So we have the free motion borders and backgrounds. We have the playing with threads, and then we have quilting with rulers, which is a lot of fun. Definitely one of those skills, especially on a long arm, that scares a lot of quilters. And I get it, because when you're quilting with rulers, it feels like you have this weird kind of, appendage connected to your hand. So sometimes taking a hands-on class really helps with that. I love it because I get out every ruler I have. We play with all the rulers and really have a good time with it. So I would say that's one of my favorite classes, but let's be honest, they're all my favorite, right? I love teaching so much, and I like hitting all the things. And then, of course, I thought, well, let's end it with some feathers. So a fabulous feathers class. Now, if you've watched any of my videos, you know I have a feathers free motion challenge quilting along video series. That came out, I think, 3 years ago. It's a blur, where we learned how to do feathers in a few blocks, and we learned how to put them in irregular areas. Well, the next free motion challenge is going to be feathers part 2. So this is going to be kind of a take on that. That's a little sneak peek. I'll announce more about that later. But we're going to learn how to use feathers and sashings and borders and other blocks. So anyway, just keep that in mind. But anyway, feathers class, where we're going to learn how to work through feathers with the long arm. So those classes, and then on June 6th is the big day, the Quilt Walk. This is our biggest event at the shop. It is the event that doesn't break us, but when it's over, we're super happy. I don't know if this is really like, I'll just tell you, after the Quilt Walk's over, I go to Catch 22 by the shop and I get some sangria, because you can get it to go, and bring it to the shop, and we get to sit in the back and have a couple sangrias. So, but it's a fun event. So the Quilt Walk, if you haven't heard me talk about it in past years, is where I introduce quilters to the downtown Liberty area. So Liberty is a big suburb of Kansas City, but we're in the historic part of Liberty. So when you're on the downtown square, you feel like you're in Stars Hollow or like this charming little town, but we still have a super Target like 10 minutes away. It's all about priorities, So it's a way to come wander around the downtown area, collecting the pieces to a pattern that I designed just for the event. So think of it kind of like a progressive quilt pattern. You go to different shops, you get to see what they're doing, collect the pieces to the free pattern, and it is a lot of fun. So I thought for fun, I'd just kind of look back over previous years of Quilt Walks. So basically how it works, you come to the shop, I give you a map, and you get to walk around, hit a couple stops, check out the shops, and get the free pattern. So this is, I think I counted our 8th Quilt Walk. I think I have that right. They all blur together. But over the past years, these are the quilts that we've designed for them, and it's kind of fun to see them and all their differences. Usually when I'm looking at Quilt Walk, I'm just it's a sampler quilt of some kind, and then I want it to be unique and interesting. I want it to be worth people coming to get the pieces too. So you can see some of the first years there. And then, so a lot of different range in styles and colors. I kind of try to switch it all up. So you just never know what you're gonna get. And then last year, here was the Quilt Walk quilt. So for this year's Quilt Walk in June, so June comes, we have this big event. we spend like the next 6 months recovering, and then the next 6 months after that thinking, oh my gosh, it's already time for Quilt Walk. It's just crazy how fast it comes around. But there was actually a special request. So even though we put on Quilt Walk, we work closely with the local businesses. We also work closely with the City of Liberty, and they actually made a request. Now, not often do they make requests, but they said, we want you to make a quilt pattern that's kind of inspired by the 250th anniversary of the US. So I'm like, okay. When I said last year, it sounded like a great idea, right? But then I have to sit down and actually do that. One thing you should know about me is I'm not really great with working with a lot of prints, especially like bold prints, and I don't tend to gravitate towards novelties. Not that I don't love novelty fabrics, I just don't tend to design them. I don't tend to work with them, and so this was a challenge. But I love a challenge. I love having like parameters because it kind of forces you in one direction and allows you to kind of flourish. So I decided I'm going to do a patriotic themed quilt with a patriotic themed fabric collection, and I'm super happy with how it turned out. So I can't wait to show you. So here is the quilt, will be the featured quilt for Quilt Walk, spangled. So again, just that kind of sampler quilt, a little bit different layout than we've seen in previous Quilt Walks. And again, with that patriotic themed. But I didn't want it to be like in your face patriotic. Not that I love that, but I'm just like, I wasn't wanting to do like an eagle on a flag. I wanted it to be, I don't know, just a little bit more subtle than that, a little more, just a little bit different. So I kind of still have that novelty-ish, you know, that patriotic fabric, but just slightly different. So I'm hoping everybody likes it because, you know, nothing like designing fabric, right? You put all your creativity in it and then you put your baby out there and you hope people like it. But anyway, the Spangled Quilt Kit is available for pre-order. So this is the one little way you can participate. The pattern during Quilt Walk, if you come, is free. You collect the pieces, but if you want to purchase the kit, you definitely can. And last year, when I showed the Quilt Walk stuff on live chat, people were like, well, we want to order the Quilt Walk kit even if we can't be there. So we made it available for pre-order, and it was a great hit. So you guys liked it, so we're doing it again. If you want to pre-order the kit, you can. The Spangled Kit, it's not going to ship until June. Or if you're going to pop in for the Quilt Walk in June in Missouri, I promise it's not going to be humid at all. It's going to be perfect. Then you can pick it up at Quilt Walk too. So you can pre-order that now. Again, everything is in the description box below, but it's always fun when I get to this point. Once the quilt is designed and the pattern's written, it's kind of like, okay, the rest is kind of fun. But if you pre-order, while supplies last, I want to say it's the first 50 or 75, one of those numbers, you get a free Quilt Walk tote bag as well. So part of the event is the fun swag we give away, the big sales, and a lot of cool stuff. But while we have supplies, the first 50 or 75, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, get the free bag. You don't have to do anything for that. That will just come with it. So, you know, nice and fun little patriotic themed right before 4th of July. So let's talk designing fabric. So one of the things that sometimes baffles me is the fact that I'm a fabric designer. When I first wanted to design fabric, it had to be 2012. And I, you know, sat down, designed this collection, had to Google how to use Illustrator. And it was really hard to get picked up at a fabric company. It took me about a year. And then fast forward, now I have the ability to design my own fabric, to produce what I want exclusively for our quilt shop. So these are all produced by me. And so it's really fun to think the freedom I have to do whatever I want, including design a fabric collection with 20 SKUs. Sorry about that, Jessica. We were bringing all the fabric in and I was like, whose idea was it to have 20 different prints? Sometimes I have trouble reining myself in. But for this, I thought I want to do, like I said, that red, white, and blue, the patriotic themed kind of look without being overly in your face. So this is a fabric that makes up the kit as well as the coordinating prints. And it was funny because I was talking right before I went live. Anna said, it's like the colors of a bomb pop. I'm like, that's it. Like, that's what I'm going for. Like refreshing bomb pop on a summer day kind of colors. So again, the idea of working with novelty prints, I don't know, it's just not something that comes natural, but I had so much fun working with these. So I'm thinking more like textures with teals and blues and a little bit of pink and a pop of red, just a little bit different. And so really fun with how it turned out, especially when I don't really know exactly what it's all gonna look like till it comes. And there's always that fear when I open the bolts. I'm like, please God, let this be good, because we just ordered a bunch of that fabric. And thankfully I was happy with how it turned out. So you can kind of see some of the prints there. Some textures, some stripes, some stars, stars and stripes, some florals, just a beautiful like mix of that. Nothing too crazy, but just perfect complement to a quilt, just to give you that perfect jumping point off. And here you can see some of those individual prints. So we have the Fat Quarter bundle available on the website, and I will be adding the other fabric shortly. But for right now, you can kind of see the different prints. If you want to make a 4th of July picnic quilt or something to hang out with, and you can see the other ones here. So it's kind of going with half kind of bold and half kind of tonal with some of those fun blenders. So it's such a process designing a fabric collection. Maybe one day I'll do a whole live chat on it, because I'm sure it's different for everybody. But the hardest part, I think, is limiting to how many prints I use and how they all work together. And when I'm designing fabric, I always design it with a particular quilt in mind. So it's not like I can just design it and say good luck with it. I need it to work in the quilt I'm working with. So again, I know not everybody can be in the Kansas City area in June, but hey, if you're coming for the World Cup, which we're hosting, you'll already be here too. So, but it's going to be a fun event to get some cool stuff. But if you can't, no problem. You can still pre-order the kit, or just be with us in moral support. So excited about that. Again, that's starting June 6th. Well, Quilt Walk is June 6th. The classes start earlier in June. So super excited. All right, I had a few questions that came up on the type chat before I went live. So I get on to the live chat about a half hour before, and we type chat each other, and it's so much fun. So if you can get on a little bit early, we have a good time, and I feel like I know a lot of the people on there, so it's pretty cool. A couple questions. Usually if somebody asks me something on there, I'll be like, oh, that's a great question. I'll answer it in the live chat. So there were some good ones today. So Tracy Morgan asked, do I ever use a seam ripper to take out the quilting, or do I just make it work? So yes, the truth of the matter is we are not perfect robots, so we're going to make mistakes. Usually, the only time in general that I take out quilting is if it is a construction problem, like the tension was so off and the stitches aren't good, or if there's like a secondary pattern that I was doing and I messed it up. So like if I really need these lines to connect and I forgot, then I will take it out. Now, I've also been quilting for a while. In the beginning, I definitely did my fair share of ripping out, and I have definitely ripped out big chunks. I think it's whatever makes you feel better about the process, because ultimately that's what's important. But what I would say, and this was not the question that's asked, but lucky for you, it's the question I'm going to answer. Before you rip it out, just try living with it for a minute. I think sometimes when you're so close to it, it's all you see. But if you can step away from the quilt, come back to it the next day, maybe it might be okay. So if you're going to rip it out, totally whatever makes you happy. But just know that maybe giving it time to percolate might make it seem better. I have a story I tell about this, and I probably have told you guys before, but this is what happens when you have a lot of live chats. You have to hear my stories multiple times. But one time, my husband Jeremy was quilting on a long arm next to me. I was free motioning, and he was computerized quilting. And all of a sudden, which is like the only time that's ever happened, by the way, and all of a sudden he's like, oh my gosh, he messed up. He was doing like crosshatch, feather, crosshatch, and he did 2 crosshatches next to each other. And I said, it's fine, nobody's gonna know. And he's like, I will know. I will know. I'm like, we're giving it away at the family reunion tomorrow. Like literally it's fine. He's like, no, you have to help me rip it out. So he made me help him rip out the quilting. And I was like, this goes against everything I stand for. But I did, because I'm a good wife. So ultimately that's what he needed to feel good about the quilt. I'm not a perfectionist. I'm a people pleaser. It's still debilitating, just in a different way. So usually I can justify it in my head or make it work, but ultimately it's whatever you want to do. All right, Tracy Loftus, yay for the Tracys representing, lost her sojo, your sewing mojo. How do I get it back? Or how do I personally get back my, when I'm feeling burnt out? Here's the thing, creativity is not a never ending well, right? The more you do it, the more you get inspired. And sometimes you're not there, whether real life gets in the way, whether you just came off a big project, whether you do it for a job and you're just burnt out at the time. How I personally handle it is first, and I should do a whole live chat of this. I know I've said this before, but I know that it's going to pass because I've been through it before and I know it passes. So I don't get too freaked out about, oh my gosh, am I going to hate quilting? Am I going to have to quit my job or anything like that? And then second, I give myself a break, right? Like I'm not feeling it right now. But when I'm ready to get back into it, or I want to get over that, a couple things I do is I start by cleaning out my quilting room. Usually that helps me find a new project or get me inspired. I might work on a really small project that I can get that sense of completion in. But I will tell you that ultimately for me, as a true extrovert, the best way to get my sojo back is to hang out with other quilters. So retreats, sewing time with friends, even if you can get together with somebody on Zoom and sew at the same time. Because sometimes quilting I feel like can be a solitary sport, but we love talking, so that's kind of how I handle it. I'll make a note and maybe do a whole live chat about that, because I have been through some burnout, and getting through it, like just seeing it's a cycle, really kind of helps. So hopefully that helps, Tracy. I will say also, like, if it's life getting in the way, stressful life situations, traumatic life situations, just give yourself grace to get through it. If it's just like, I'm burnt out, you know, sometimes finding a new project, going to a guild meeting, hanging out with other quilters really helps. So hopefully that helps. All right, Sabita asked me, how do I ruler quilt in manual mode? So great question. One thing I like to say is, on my long arm, I don't have a stitch regulator because it got knocked off of the back. The encoder did when my kids were little, and I just left it off because I just always quilt in manual. Well, that means when I'm quilting with rulers, I am constantly starting and stopping, and my hand is on that trigger. So it's like, go, go, go. I asked Jeremy one time what my machine sounded like in the living room, because my machine's upstairs. I'm like, is it loud? Can you hear it? And he's like, it sounds like this, ring, 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 because I'm stopping so much. So anytime I pause, I just turn the machine off. So that's how I handle it. All right, and then last question that I wrote down for Teresa says, she has a quilt with applique birds. Will it work for a Hello Spring, or would she want to do different stuff since it's birds? So the Hello Spring panel is meant to kind of replicate applique. That's kind of the look we're going for. How would I handle this if this were an applique quilt? Now, obviously it's not, because I don't have time to do applique, and hers is birds. I think it would work totally fine. For the most part, how I approach applique pieces are the same no matter what they are. So whether it's a leaf or a flower or a bird or whatever, I'm still going to do echoing. I'm still going to use filler to show it off, and all the kind of things we're going to be learning in the Hello Spring video series. So if you already have something that you think would work, go ahead and quilt it during the video series. It's a fun way to finish a project and then turn it into those quilted products. So hopefully that helped. It looks like there's a few questions over there, so I'll answer those. I will be back next week with another live chat. Not sure what we're talking about yet, but I'm sure it'll be just great. Should I do any prep work for the spring panel? If you want to go ahead and make your quilt sandwich, that's the most important thing. We're not going to be doing a lot of marking, not a lot of ruler quilting, so just getting it ready to go. Any ideas for a border for the spring panel? So that's a great question. For the main Free Motion Challenge Quilting Along video series that we do, I do have a video or a border panel for that, but the spring or these smaller series are just meant to be a little bit more simple. As far as border, I don't know. I'll have to think on that. Maybe I'll make a note and try to answer it in the live chat. I don't really love piecing borders, so I don't know that I would do something, but maybe it's like some kind of pieced border with flying geese or something that work around there. Maybe I'll mock something up and show you next week. Since you didn't have to spend a lot of time piecing it, maybe doing something a little more intricate in the border would be kind of cool. All right, I talk about using poly batting. Why do I prefer that over cotton 80-20, so a cotton blend? Ultimately, it's as deep as this. When I started long arming all those years ago, I only had room in my quilting area, it was really small, for one big roll of batting. And I chose poly because probably that's what I saw on the Yahoo forum that I should use. Because that was before, YouTube and social media. All I had was a Yahoo forum. I like poly batting, and this is it right here. You can kind of see, it's not poly like you would think of. It's not like the mountain mist gross feeling stuff. It's like almost like a felt. I like poly batting because it still has a nice drape, so I still get that cuddliness, but it doesn't have a memory like cotton. So for me, I fold up my quilts a lot. I have show and tells, they're on display. It's not going to have a lot of that creasing. I think the blend is a great option. If you want a little bit of the poly benefits with the natural fiber of cotton, that's great too. I also think 100% cotton is good as well. It's really whatever you want to use. I think the most important thing isn't necessarily what your batting is made out of, it is whether it's a reputable brand. That's the important thing. What I don't want to do is use a cheap batting that's going to beard through the quilt over the years, which is what I did early on. Some of those first quilts are bearding, so I pull the little strings out, which is a lot of fun when I'm stressed out, during a football game. But now I have quilts without much batting inside. So as long as it's a reputable brand, it's going to be fine. Quilter's Dream is the one that I use, but there's several great brands out there. So hopefully that helps. Any tips for quilting with fleece on the backing? So fleece on the backing is great. It's going to make the quilt nice and soft and cuddly, especially if it's, for cold days or a younger child. Not a whole lot of tips. It's going to be about the same. If you're quilting on a sewing machine, the hardest part is going to be the extra thickness of that fleece. So just take your time with that. And then on a long arm, the only thing I would say if you're quilting on a long arm is make sure you don't stretch that fleece too tight. Sometimes fleece has a little bit of a stretch, same with minky. And if you stretch it too tight on that frame, when you get done and you take it off, it will revert to its size and end up making like a bowl. So just don't stretch it too tight. But fleece is a great option. Love it. All right, any tips for making my swirls rounder while using my long arm? Well, don't you just love it? Squared swirls, or squirrels, that's kind of what I like to call them. That is the bane, I think, of every quilter's existence. And when you're seeing those squared off swirls, instead of being discouraged, think of it as like, I am almost there. Like, I know how the design goes together, I'm just refining it. What happens on a long arm specifically is you're working with two sets of wheels, right? One horizontal, one vertical, and you're engaging both of those wheels to make the curve. So think about like doing that on an Etch-a-Sketch. Like, it's just not necessarily easy right off the bat. So as you're quilting, moving through that curve with confidence and momentum will help you get that smooth movement down. That's also going to come with practice, unfortunately. So just kind of working through that. Another thing that might help is two things. Most quilters, a good number of quilters, tend to quilt too slow. I'm not saying that you should quilt so fast that you're out of control, but if you're quilting really slow, it gives you too much time to correct yourself, and that's where we kind of get those kind of boxy swirls. So if you find that you're a slower quilter, maybe moving a little bit quicker, not so fast that you're like, I'm out of control, but if you're quilting slow enough that you can critique the job you're doing while you're doing it, that's too slow. Second thing is if you have been trying and trying and trying, and no matter what, they're not getting around. If you're in stitch regulator, maybe switching over to the manual mode. The only reason I say that is I feel like in manual mode, you can get a smoother momentum down where you're less pushing the machine and more guiding it. And so usually in my classes, if I have somebody that's struggling with that, that's something I'll try. And sometimes it really does help. So maybe about 50% of the people that helps. So give those a shot. But really, whatever you do, however you quilt your swirl, as long as you do it consistently over the whole quilt, it's going to look great. So I say that quilting is kind of like handwriting. We all have our own styles, so your swirl just might look that way, and that's totally fine. So hopefully that helps. I would love to hear anybody's comments on any of those questions. You can leave those on the video, and like I said, one lucky winner is going to win 20 fat quarters from the Liberty Blooms fabric collection. All you have to do is leave a comment on the video, and I will announce the winner in next week's live chat. Well, until then, everybody, have a safe weekend. Hope your bobbins are all full and you get all your projects done. Until next weekend, everybody, until next live chat, everybody, happy quilting.